Welcome to the Deadwood. I'm Willow the Wendigo. I make my home here. Today's video is a short one. I'm going to show you statistics about trans people, both good and bad. They will serve to put actual numbers behind what trans people face every day. So, don't be shy, grab a beverage or a bite to eat, and let's have a chat. I'm going to close out this series in the next video by addressing some common anti-trans arguments. But before I do that, let's go over some statistics. While we have numbers that are encouraging, many show the harsh reality of being a trans person, especially one who tries to embrace their identity and shares their trans identity with others. Having actual numbers that accurately represent the trauma, pain, and suffering the trans community goes through puts into perspective just how marginalized the trans community is. They show why educating about trans individuals and giving them empathy, help, and understanding are vital. Let's begin with statistics from the United States. Since the Human Rights Campaign began recording them in 2013, murders of trans people in the United States have been steadily increasing. 5 out of 6 of these murder victims are trans women, and 80% of murdered trans women are Black. The overwhelming majority of murdered trans people are trans women, and the vast majority of those victims are people of color. Misgendering or lack of identification of trans murder victims is common, both by the media and by the police. Activists are the only reason many of these individuals are properly identified. The following 4 statistics were reported in 2019. 1 in 3 trans youths has been a victim of sexual violence in the past year. 1 in 3 trans youths has attempted suicide in the past year. 1 in 4 trans youths has felt unsafe going to school in the past month. More than half of trans adolescents have self-harmed non-fatally in the past year. A trans individual's chance of suicide attempts is doubled if they are rejected by their birth family, up to 10.5%, or if their religious community rejects them, or they are forced into conversion, quote, therapy, end quote, up to 13.1%. Compared to cisgender individuals, trans youth have 2 to 3 times the risk of depression, anxiety disorder, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and self-harming. 17 anti-LGBTQ laws were enacted in 2021, more than in 2018, 2019, and 2020 combined. Over 250 anti-LGBTQ bills, many targeting trans individuals and trans youth, were proposed to state legislatures in 2021, including at least 35 bills denying trans youth gender-affirming care, and at least 15 bills requiring trans individuals to use the locker room or restroom of their birth sex. In 2018, 55% of trans people who sought insurance coverage for surgical procedures were denied. 25% of trans people who sought insurance coverage for hormone replacement therapy were denied. Here are a few statistics from the European Union, reported in 2014. 1 in 4 trans individuals reports being discriminated against at work. 1 in 8 trans individuals experienced or was threatened with violence in the past year. Actual sexual and physical assaults are more likely than threats of assaults. public places are where the most serious hate-related attacks take place. 1 in 3 trans individuals do not report violent attacks against them to the police because they are afraid of homophobia or transphobia from the police as well. Harassers of trans people are overwhelmingly groups of men the trans individuals do not know. There are, however, encouraging statistics about trans individuals as well, and I'd like to share them with you. Not all is doom and gloom, especially with regard to treatment outcomes when dysphoric individuals are able to receive proper care. After 12 months, hormone replacement therapy significantly cuts the occurrence of anxiety by 33% and depression by 19% in trans individuals. HRT lowers depression, anxiety, and stress in female-to-male trans individuals, while increasing quality of life. In male-to-female individuals, it also increases quality of sex life. SRS has been shown in multiple studies to improve the lives of trans individuals who desire it. In one extensive survey of 81 trans women and 51 trans men, surgical interventions had an extraordinarily high satisfaction rate and improved quality of life. With the exception of one individual, feminizing surgery satisfaction rate was 96 to 100%, and masculinizing surgery satisfaction rate was 94 to 100%. None of the respondents expressed the wish to detransition, despite a few having some disappointment about surgical outcomes. Regret about transitioning is very low. A study of 295 trans people found regret rates of 1 to 1.5%, and the author attributes this regret to poor diagnosis and surgical outcomes, and failure to abide by the 12 months of living experience recommended in the WPATH Standards of Care prior to surgery. A study of 218 trans individuals who had SRS from 1972 to 1992 found the rate of regret to be slightly higher, at 3.8%. Its conclusion was that sex reassignment outcomes have improved in the past few decades, and that the best indicators of regretting SRS were lack of familial and social support. Yet another study of 163 trans women was done in 2007. It found that 75% of respondents had a better sex life, 78% were satisfied by their genitals' new appearance, and almost none had regrets regarding SRS. In addition, a 2014 study of 119 trans women who had undergone SRS found that 82.4% of them could achieve orgasm, with 20.9% of them achieving orgasm, quote, easily, end quote. Clearly, the idea that trans people must sacrifice their sexuality in order to transition is not true. Finally, trans individuals who are not viewed by others as transgender, and those who do not disclose to others that they are transgender, reported lower prevalence of suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts. For instance, 6.3% of those who reported that others can never tell they are transgender attempted suicide in the past year, compared to 12.2% of those who reported that others can always tell they are transgender. These statistics were reported in 2019. It seems that trans individuals who can either remove their gender incongruence or minimize its effects, while also not being harassed and abused by society, tend to be happier. Who could have suspected that? Let's pause here before moving on. In the next video, I'll address a few seemingly strong anti-trans criticisms. They seem valid, at least until examined critically. Some are born of valid concerns, but most are rooted in ignorance or outright bigotry. I'll deal with them with condescension or grace and reliable sources as appropriate, and that will be the final video of this series. That's all for now. I'm Willow the Wendigo, bidding you farewell. Wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely night's sleep. And remember, you're always welcome in the Deadwood.